Hi, Evgeny. Nice to have you here on our podcast at Subscribed. So I'm Pius. I'm co-founder of Subscribed, and thank you so much for joining today. Before I start, we already met, but can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Hey, Pius. Yeah, thanks for hosting me. Happy to be here. And I'm Yevgeny Pats. I'm based in New York right now, originally from telaviv. Uh, I'm right now working on my third startup, so been kind of in the industry and entrepreneurship for the last 10 or so years. And I love it so far. So happy to share more details.
Wow, I didn't know you're working on your third startup. That's inspiring. I think it's a real startup, not like ours. So what were your other two startups and what are you working on now?
So I think every project I think is a real startup. There is no such thing as not a real startup. But right now I'm working on a startup in the data integration space. It's called CloudQuery. So we are the creators of an open source ELT framework powered by apachearrow. So developers, data engineers can write plugins in different languages, and sync data from different sources to different databases or data warehouse. Specifically, our platform is focused on cloud infrastructure and security tooling. So we help platform engineers or security engineers kind of sync all their metadata from, let's say, AWS, GCP, and different security tools to Postgres or Snowflake, so they can understand what they have, especially in like large accounts or when you really have a sprawl. So if someone is familiar, you can think about it like a five trend, but for cloud infrastructure and security. That's what we do.
Nice. And what motivated you to become a founder earlier when you were young? Was it like you were growing up and you're like, oh, I always want to create cloud infrastructure. That's my dream. So how was it? Was it like a moment you remember when you thought, looking back, you thought like, oh, I want to become a founder? For me, it was like, I think I was just growing up with entrepreneurs and everyone in my family was doing something. So I always felt like I have to do something else as well. What was it for you?
Yeah, so I definitely didn't start with cloud infrastructure. I don't think it existed when I started or cloud existed. But I think I was just always curious about like kind of invention. So I did grew up like when Facebook started, so a lot of like changes and that happens to you as a consumer as well. Right, mobile happened, internet like kind of really like it took off and changed from from 2000 from you know uh 90s and then 2000 when I was growing up, right? So I was really curious about that, and I was curious about like how people invent that stuff, how is it done, how those companies are being created. So yeah, I was just really curious about it, and then really the army um, after the army, I served like 4.5 years in the cybersecurity. So I did a lot of like computer related and programming, right? And then after that, I joined a few of my kind of friends or colleagues that started a startup. So I was like, okay, I want to learn how this works. And then after that, I basically started my own journey. That's
Yes.
that's in a short overview.
So I assume this was in Tel Aviv, and so you were part of the Tel Aviv tech ecosystem and benefited from that and took the most out of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I was lucky to be kind of in the right time in the right place. So both like in the cybersecurity, I think in the cybersecurity intelligence unit, I met a lot of people. I got like a lot of skills as as a young person to learn about an industry that actually become like very very hard in
Yeah.
the like in the commercial side, right, in the startup world. And then yes, I was able also to join like early on to like relatively successful startup. Like it was acquired early on, but still I had the
Oh, nice.
opportunity to join startups right in my kind of close circle. So yeah, definitely I was lucky there.
Yeah. Yeah. I spoke with a lot of founders, and I think the common thread is if they worked somewhere else before and the startup was going well, it's always helpful. I think to progress to the next level, but also in many cases, the first or second thing often doesn't work. I mean, for you, it sounds like things were going in the right direction, which is awesome. Yeah, you build on that from one success to another. There's two connection points I think I have with you. The first one is I also went to the army for 6 months. Probably not to as good army as you. And then the other part is I worked as a cook, and I was in Tel Aviv as well because the family invited me to Tel Aviv. So I was there, and I was preparing Middle Eastern Tel Aviv style food in Vienna when I was 19. So if you're ever in Vienna, I can recommend you a good restaurant to go. Yeah. Next question. What are your favorite subscription tools and what do you use them for? And it can be on a personal level, it can be on a company level to help you, or is it different? Is it like there's some tools you really like personally, like certain newspapers, I don't know, trading tools, and then in the company? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So and actually actually going back like for a second for like the previous said, so I think yeah, I was definitely lucky, but as you said, like first or second startup, like my first startup that I started after that, they were I think like semi-successful. I think had a lot of challenges because you still learn on your own at the end of the day. So like you said, like some like a lot of luck, of course, depends which market you hit or which market you start, but I think it took me a while to kind of fine tune what I need to
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think the second startup was a bit like more successful or easier for me than the first one.
Yeah. Do you think it's a number game or is it like a skill game? I had two companies that were very unsuccessful. I rarely talk about. So I started a food truck business with the family in Austria. I had like two projects, and then I think I gave up and started studying because I realized hospitality is just too fucking hard. Physical on the body. And then I had a design business, a kind of local ed store. It was called Fusion Design in Vienna. It also wasn't that successful. Like not, I mean, it wasn't making a big loss, but it also wasn't making profit or revenue. So yeah, what was it? Was it similar for you, or was it, or can you describe your
Yeah,
and
I think
failure?
it's Yeah, I think it's a lot of luck as well, you know. I mean, of course, there is skill, there is luck, there is timing. I mean, just a lot of things has to kind of come together for something to be great success. So there is no one thing, you know. I think
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
agree. I mean,
It's
I always think about myself. I'm really like a average person, in many aspects. I'm not really good in anything. Like, I'm not like, there are people who are the best in mathematics. So I met actually a person I work on Facebook. She was the best person in mathematics from high school from India. So it's like one in a million, And I was never like that. I was like a really bad student, but I was smart enough to get progress, let's say, to not die.
yeah,
But I think I just created some of the luck for myself. I was going to places like leaving my home, and that increased my odds. And that also made me think if I can do it, a lot of other people must be doing it as well. Because um, cool. What about your tools? Tell me about because we are also a subscription marketplace. So I want to know, what are your favorite subscription tools you, Evgeny, as a private person, and it can also be Netflix, and as a professional person, or
yeah,
don't
sure.
like
So
tools at all. Yeah.
yeah, sure. So I think it really depends on like what I'm on the period of like what I'm doing at the moment, right? So my tools kind of change, right, depending on what I focus on. So let's say when I started CloudQuery, I was doing a lot of coding, so a lot of VS Code, um, quite a bit of Copilot as well. So like when it kind of started, actually, it's kind of new, but then now I'm doing a bit more meetings, a bit more emails. So I think Calendly is definitely one that I'm using quite a bit. It saves me a lot of time. Zoom for meetings, for for better or for worse. Though I'm trying to stay lean on meeting because it's definitely takes a lot of time and energy. But yeah, Slack also kind of the best thing that the best communication tools that interrupts you the most. But
Yeah, it's so good and so bad. Yeah, at the same.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, so good so at the same time. So yeah, I think those are things that are kind of using on the day to day. I'm sure there are like uh, better tools to automate stuff. I'm like not a heavy not a heavy automation person, but those are kind of some of the small kind of things that I'm using on the
Yeah.
daily basis.
And do you, are you subscribed on a personal level to any newspapers or trade? Like, I don't know, I'm just curious because at Subscribed, what we realized is we have a lot of people coming, like founders, and they would use all the tools to manage, like Calendly, Zoom, Asana, Jira, the teams, but then they would also be subscribed to, I don't know, Duolingo or Financial Times or Trade Republic. I don't know. Like, is there anything in your personal life that you use? You don't have to share it. I'm more like curious about it. Yeah, Amazon
Yeah,
Prime.
so
No, yeah.
yeah, so I think it really changes just on the like what I'm doing at that specific period. So I think, when I started CloudQuery, I was not doing, I wasn't having a lot of meetings. We were a very small team. I didn't have a lot of emails. So I was mostly coding. So yes, I was subscribed like to various newsletters, maybe some security newsletters or cloud infrastructure. Uh, but now I have actually a lot of emails. So I unsubscribed from most of the newsletter, or if I'm subscribed, they're like in a different folder, and I kind of rarely go because just I have so many emails that I need to reply, kind of that I have to
Yeah.
reply. So I'm like, okay, uh, I don't want to read anything anymore. So
Yeah. And I mean, subscribed for a paid service. Like, for example, there's two things or three things I use. Like, one is like my Revolut account. I love it. It's so powerful. Everywhere I go in the world, I can use it now. It's just beautiful and works. And then the other one is, and I pay for it too. The other one is Netflix, because I like watching things with my girlfriend after work sometimes. I have to admit, I don't want to read always more things on how to do things better, because I already know I'm pretty average and it doesn't go anywhere. No, I'm kidding. So I need time to relax. And then the last one is, yeah, I'm subscribed to New York Times, like just like $2 a month. But I realize also that most people are not paying for any services at all. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not reading a lot of news latest at all. I have to admit that. Do that probably more.
yeah, I'm also subscribed to Netflix. I just don't like. I watch that when there is some good stuff or new stuff out, but
Yeah,
usually it's kind of like kind of average. But when something good is out, I usually just binge it like the whole show in 2 days, and then I don't have anything new to watch there.
exactly. And I also don't tell anyone because I want everyone to think I'm working all the time. No, no, I'm kidding, partly. Okay. So we work with CloudQuery, and we actually, we work together. We created this video for you to present the product. And by the way, it's doing very well. And how do you make sure in the company, because I think we are just one out of 100 different things that you think about, and I was always very impressed by it. So, but how do you make sure that your product stands out today, and what's your vision in the future? Whatever you are open to share.
Yeah, sure. So I think like we started just by solving a pain point, of course, that or kind of an underserved market, or a new niche that was growing because AWS, GCP, and Azure, and like all that didn't exist like 10 years ago, right? And it's really exploded in the last 10 years, and security tooling also exploded in the last 7 years. So it created like a lot of new challenges. So challenges that we like tackle, and with CloudQuery, right, it kind of helps you consolidate a lot of that information. So it is an underserved market still, and yeah, I think we just make sure that we kind of listen to our customers and working on our product, make sure quality and quantities kind of quality is high, and we still continue to ship new features, new integrations. I think that's on the product side, and of course, marketing is part of it. Making sure people know about us, going to the right places, doing whether it's content marketing, doing education, if it's a new use case, or we are solving something new that people don't know that it's possible to solve it that way. So, we continue to do that in that direction. And of course, on the sales side, you have to close more customers. That's part of the business, and make sure sales process is smooth. Your kind of pricing is reasonable and works for the customers. So yeah, and continue to working on all those kind of critical path of sales, marketing, and the product, right?
What's challenging about your pricing, or what do you think is challenging about the pricing in the industry you're in or the space you're in for yourself and
Yeah.
customers?
Yeah, so I think in the data integration space, so the current pricing, I think across the board, is usage-based pricing. So price based on the amount of data that you sync with CloudQuery or with other tools. It's kind of standard. The good side of usage-based pricing is, I think, relatively new actually across the board in SaaS companies like seat. I think the very early, right, seat-based is the standard pricing. It's also easier to build, and usage-based is there are successful companies like Snowflake, AWS is usage-based, right? But it's harder to build, right? The kind of advantage of usage-based pricing is that you can start kind of very easily, especially at small scale. It doesn't cost a lot. The downside of usage-based billing is what happens when you use it a lot, or what happens maybe if you made a mistake, and I don't know, you had a script that automated something, and now you wake up to a bill like the AWS horror bills, or the Datadog kind of horror stories on Hacker News that someone woke up with a $1 million bill. I think it's a problem in usage-based billing, but there are ways to combat it, whether it's limits or alerting or different packages. So we actually tackle it with different packages for enterprise, where we offer a flat fee. So once you grow over some usage, we offer kind of enterprise packages with flat fees, so enterprises can be sure that it is predictable, right? So predictability is kind of an issue in usage-based billing.
And I mean, I wish there was a product that can track all the subscription and give alerts like subscribed, right? No.
Exactly.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, with the hackers, that makes sense, and the bills increases. Actually, there was 2 weeks ago, so I was on a podcast with SaaS Group, and I was just there as one of people, And the CPO there, what he does is they buying SaaS companies and they're optimizing them very quick. And obviously they have a unfair advantage because they're overseeing a lot of SaaS companies, like almost like a VC, and price changes don't have to happen so often. So we talked about pricing, and one of the things is the study that says that up to $1 million ARR, it's very beneficial to have usage-based pricing, and after that, moving from user-based to usage-based pricing. I think it always depends on the product, but you see that with a lot of products like HubSpot. So if you want to go to the 100 million ARR level, you need to move to usage-based because it's also value exchange. So HubSpot does that. I think Intercom now has FinBar or so that basically is like based on resolution. So even classical seat-based models move to usage-based models at some point. And I think it also happens with companies that were poorly seat-based, like, for example, design companies like Kittle is one. They have like, Kittle is like Adobe Illustrator for the web, and they have like their normal design seat-based, and then they have AI credits because AI credits are so expensive, so you need to bring this value forward to the customer and charge them. I think there's some shifts now also because of the AI, where more models move into the usage-based space.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your pricing a lot of time, like your product pricing is also a lot of time dependent on like the infrastructure pricing underneath, right? So like now all the SaaS products underneath use AWS, and this is usage based. Sometimes you can kind of abstract it with a different pricing model, but like, yeah, AI, if you like AI, like heavy user, and this is your infrastructure, then it's hard to abstract it with seat-based pricing if your underneath pricing is usage. So kind of it's easier for you to just take a margin on the same price. But yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough in a way building a successful SaaS company because of that, right? So it's more complexity, and pricing is not easy to do well.
Pricing is hard.
It's very hard. How much time do you think the average SaaS company spends thinking about their pricing?
I think I think it's something that they start thinking pretty early and never stop thinking about. It's
apparently, I'm not sure if it's true. It's 9 hours in the lifetime of a SaaS company.
9 hours? I would be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna connect you with Daniel from the SaaS group. He quoted this metric. I'm not sure if it's really true. It's probably based on averages, and I'm pretty sure if you're VC funded, they're gonna put a bit more pressure on you than 9 hours. But I think the point is, maybe it's like even more. Once you have your pricing, I guess you don't change it that often. I think that's the point. That's the thing about it. What he said is like looking at the competition, and I kind of agree because we are right now formulating our own pricing at Subscribed. Looking at the competition is not always helpful. So you need to introspect and understand it. And I really felt it because we looked at some of our competitors because we don't really have competition. We are unique. And I found that very challenging. And then only with the introspection, we positioned ourselves way better with pricing. How is that for you? Is it for you like I assume it's usage-based, it's straightforward, more straightforward, or how did you use external factors versus introspecting on the value for your product?
Yeah, so I think usage-based because it's it's kind of standard in the data integration, and there is not a lot of other good options. So that's how we started, and then how we kind of got to the like how much exactly to charge per different usage. I think we also looked at competition, and try to understand what is a good price, what is a sustainable price on our end as well to make some profit and expand and make it a sustainable business, but also Sometimes we also ask our customers like how much you're using it for free, kind of beta customers, how much you would be willing to pay for it. What value does it provide, and then try to come with something reasonable. Our pricing is still, I would say, in beta, probably close to something that won't change for a while. But we did ship like our paid product, just in the last couple of months. So it's still kind of in beta, where it might change a bit. But for the most part, this is how we did it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And makes sense, I guess. Yeah. And definitely makes sense. And initially, what was the biggest obstacle for you launching the product? Looking back, like in the first year, 6 months. I mean, you said, "Oh, we found a pain point, and then this is how we started." Was that very obvious and easy, or to do? Sounds like it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think initially, so we started 3 years ago, and actually we started as an open source uh, tool. I was just experimenting with this idea. I didn't know if it's like a real pain point, but I had this idea in mind. Like I dealt a lot with cloud infrastructure, so I thought to create something more like developer friendly, maybe open source, maybe not. But yeah, I released it. It started to gain some traction, and with relatively large customers. So yeah, I ran with it like I think for something like 4 or 5 months, maybe prior to the time that we raised our seed funding. And yeah, I thought, okay, like it seems it's gaining some traction. Let's try to dig deeper into that problem. It seems it's an interesting problem, and then we started building that framework, that open source framework, and then building the integration. So yeah, I think it was basically just kind of research, develop, talk to customers, and repeat. I think it took us a while to also understand the business model, and yeah, but I think we're in a relatively good spot now.
You open source. That's interesting topic. We actually were figured out there's like quite a lot of companies now doing open source products too, like for new companies. Is there actually a trend of more things starting with open source right now, or what is, or is it not, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I think it was quite confusing time in the last 3 years for open source companies, because I think, yes, people thought that it is a thing, or you can build a business on top of it. But I think reality is like open source business like changed a lot, like in the last 20 years, started from support, then SaaS version, but then like cloud providers actually hosted open source versions themselves and created competition for those open source
Okay,
companies.
I see.
So there were a lot of like license changes. Like I won't go into the whole like history of open source, but I think at the end of the day, like open source is not a business model. Like if you give something for free, then like you can like your business will die. So it's not really I don't think today is a business. You can have a small piece of your company as open source, like if it serves a purpose, but you have to have a lot of like at the end of the day closed source software that you sell, whether a license or whatever it is. So yeah, our company is not open source company. It's a closed source
Yeah. That's clear. Yeah.
platform. Our plugins are closed source, but the framework that we have is open source and people use it. So it's like a small piece, and you can think about it like Vercel and Next.js. Vercel is even if Next.js wouldn't exist, Vercel would be a very good company because it will host like whatever React or it will host Nux. It will work also with Next.js, right? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just the thing that they happen to maintain.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there are companies like Automatic, like WordPress.org, who I'm not sure if it's true, but they pretend to be open source somewhat, or they are. I don't know. I don't quote me on that, but they somehow figure out, yeah, ways on making money anyhow. As you said, yeah, it needs to happen, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely like not a pro on all like open source companies. I just know kind of my, like I'm sure
Yeah.
there are different businesses, different open source models. I think, yeah, from my experience in general, like making money if you're just like 100% open source, basically other companies will just walk all over you and will sell your software for money while you will hold the bag of waste, like developing the software and just burning
Yeah.
through the cash.
Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, but for you, it sounds like it was a great way. It's almost like product-led growth for consumer companies. Open source is like the equivalent of the free product for enterprise in a way. For you, yeah, is it
Yeah,
good logic?
yes, I think, yes, exactly. Yeah, I think like in the enterprise, not only open source but also self-hosted,
See, yeah,
um, and kind of maybe free trials or some small free tiers. It gives like a backdoor in the enterprise, because let's say there is someone like a whatever platform engineer or someone who wants to try software in a big bank. If he needs to buy it right away, like it's going to be pretty hard. So let's say he wants to test it, he will go and see, okay, can I just download something? Is there a software out there that I can download and run it from
yeah,
within the bank, instead of
true.
like connecting all the bank data to like a third party? Like you have to go through security, you have to go through procurement. So I think, yeah, some kind of free trials, maybe like, of course, some small
Self-hosted.
pieces,
Yeah,
yeah, small pieces of open source or some trials is helpful to get in the.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. I love that. Each time I speak with someone like yourself, I often think, oh man, I learned so much. Like each time I go, wow, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I love it. Uh, yeah, I think how should people, like, shifting gears a bit? We are coming to the end of our conversation. What should young people do with their careers nowadays? Like, what's your advice? Like, what should people do after high school, or if they're undecided? Like, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and again, it's from just from my perspective. So in general, like don't listen to advice too much. I think it's the first step, because advice is like generic, right? So it really depends on what, like, circumstances or whatever it is on the person. But in general, do what you like, do what you're passionate about, like depending on the opportunities. You want to start a startup, or you have like opportunity, you want to work on something, so go and do it. You don't want to start the startup, don't do it. You want to join the startup, then join the startup. Like, do what you're passionate about, right? Because otherwise, like, what's the point? It has to be also, at least some fun, or something that you're interested in, whether it works or not.
Yeah,
So yeah, do what you like,
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I won't speak to that in detail, but yeah, 100%. I have also my personal experience with that. Life is too short, like how many weeks do we live? You probably have, you heard about that. And it's like this table, and it's like each box is a week, and it's not so many weeks. And you're like, oh man, like, it's not so much time in our life to fuck around. We really have to do what we like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
and yeah, well, I know I agree advice is cheap, but what advice would you give founders who are just starting? Like, if it's one thing you want to take them away with,
Yeah,
doesn't
I
matter,
think
just one thing you want to tell them.
yeah, I think just make sure you take care of yourself, right? I think that's important, and make sure it's, keep going. It's partially fun. And yeah, I would say, take good care of yourself. I think health is important. So if that's one thing, yeah, make sure you're taking care of yourself while you're working. It's a lot of work, a lot of stress. So make sure you, take the time also to relax sometimes and take care of
Yeah.
your body.
Watch Netflix, go to the gym. I mean, you see, I'm
Yeah,
just in the gym.
yeah,
It
you should
helps.
do that.
Yeah. What do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah, so I'm probably, yeah, try, do the basic stuff, if I'm tired, sleeping enough, going to the gym, like probably I should go more than I go, but, I do that, on the weekends. I do take some rest if I feel like I'm tired, I do go to a vacation. So that just making, listen to my body and making sure, I'm not taking it too hard, to the extreme, right? Because then also you become like more sloppy, of course, you make mistakes, you become tired. It's kind of classic. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
not to say, you don't have to work. It is, yeah, quite a lot of work, but still kind of making sure things are in check.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned tired now 3 times, so you definitely take care of not being tired. Um, it's funny that you mentioned it because I think when I had a job at Canva and at Meta, I was feeling more tired because actually I worked more hours because there's more documentation and things you need to do for these big companies and less time you can spend on things that move the needle. I don't want to say politics. It's just like big organization require more meetings and more over documentation for the right reasons. And now it feels like I have so much time. I mean, I don't have much time, but I do. It's hard. You probably remember it from the army. In the army, you have to do. I had to do. You have to do a lot of tasks, and
Yeah,
there's really no why behind it. I mean, yeah, you can understand, but there's no why. Just do it. At least that's what I remember. I have to clean sometimes the toilet. I have to stand outside in the cold. All these things, and there's no real reason for it, but you have to. And I think all of this is gone if you're in a smaller system. But I can see as well if you don't have any experience on seeing the systems at other places, like the army, like in other companies, you burn out because you have no framework on how to balance, to balance yourself and take care of your needs.
yeah,
Would
yeah.
you, or you see it different?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can also, this advice, again, it's like generic advice, so like
Advice to
don't take
yourself.
everything.
What else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you can also, this is also true if you're working in a big organization or in a small startup, not
Yeah, that's
necessarily
true.
if you're a founder, like it's also like a kind of work ethic thing or how much you are excited about something, right? Because when I also worked at a startup or when I worked at the army, I had periods where I also worked a lot because I was just, I was kind of, just excited about that. That's how
Yeah.
I work. I get too excited about something, and then sometimes I take it a bit too far. So it's basically just a personality thing. So I know I need to keep things in check, otherwise I'll burn out, and then I'll still have to recover. So I know it's better to kind of recover periodically, so I can run for a long distance.
Yeah, that's true. Did you ever burn out?
Uh,
Felt
yeah,
like
yeah.
you were low energy?
Yeah, for sure. And then usually I just have to, take vacation for longer period of time. I don't think I had like very, very long like uh burnouts, as I usually luckily like I was able to recover relatively quickly, but yeah, sure. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
after
I
my first
get.
startup,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, after my first startup, I was quite tired for I think quite a few months, but I
Okay.
already like left it. But it took me, I think, 2 months to kind of to really relax, be on vacation, and then start like thinking about the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to disclose it. I mean, I'm just asking you. So I had I think 2016 when I worked for Facebook, I was feeling burnt out. I didn't know why, but I was in hindsight, I know now. So I was in this project in San Francisco for a month, and it was the solidarity. So I was like living by myself in San Francisco, taking the shuttle to Menlo Park for 1 month. So I felt like a robot, like getting up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, going to work, like all play, no fun. And it's so tough. And I moved to San Francisco afterwards. It was different, but still this commute and early getting up and missing the entire pillar of people you stay with, you love, and you're safe. I think that really burned me out next to the work, because I think I could have maintained the work, but I think that work became more intense. It was a difficult project. I was by myself. I think this was just so hard for me. That was the second time, and then after that, it took me like 2 months, I think, to recover. And also, I was seeing a psychologist because I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling burnt out and sad and depressed. I have no reason for it, but I feel like, what should I do? It was literally like, I knew logically nothing should be wrong with me, but it was, there's nothing wrong with you. So that was 2016. And then when I started working as a cook in 2008 in Vienna, I also didn't know what to do after high school. So I told my parents to go to university. But in fact, because I was so overwhelmed with what I should study, I just started secretly working as a cook on the side because it was more fun. And that kind of, I think the purpose helped me to just get out of it. But yeah, it's like, it was kind of funny. So what?
Yeah, I think definitely you need to keep things in check, otherwise we can burn out. But it's very personal. Some people can sleep 4 hours a day, and it's good for
I
them,
know.
and it's totally fine. I think you just need to listen kind of to yourself, and probably it also changes with age, so you kind of need to know yourself pretty good.
I'm kind of happy that I met you, because I thought no one else is tired besides me, but you also seem to sleep, so that's good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Last question, Yevgeny. One thing you want to share with our audience, or your audience, through this podcast, one message you want to tell them, or anything, what would it be if you had to tell them something? Future customer, existing customer, employees, shareholders, I don't know, your younger
Yeah,
self.
sure. Yeah, sure. So I think if if you're in the data integration space, or in the kind of cloud infrastructure space, or security kind of cloud infrastructure, take a look at CloudQuery. It's a cool project. If you're looking for a job, as kind of software engineer, or whatever, if you want to work in a startup, go to CloudQuery.io, check out our open positions, and feel free to also reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely. And I can confirm. I think I know you also a little bit longer. You're a great person, and people are lucky to work with you. I mean, I work with you. It was great. So I think it's definitely a good place to work, of what I can see. So definitely do that if you hear this message. Yeah.
That's good.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pius. Thanks for hosting.